My wife cheated with her boss and demanded our house. Then I found the forged documents that destroyed her entire plan. Hello Reddit I plus here. I never thought I would be the guy writing out my life story on the internet, but here I am. I am a 36-year-old man who thought he had finally built the kind of quiet, stable life he used to dream about in college. A life full of routines, shared plans, and a house that felt like a symbol of everything I had worked toward. But it turns out, a single person can tear all of that apart faster than you would believe. My ex-wife, who I will call Rena, and I had been together for a little more than a decade. We met when I was 24, and she was 22. I had just started working at a design and manufacturing firm, and she was doing administrative work for a logistics company downtown. She had this quick humor that caught people off guard, and a confidence that made every room tilt in her direction. We dated for 3 years before getting married in a small ceremony at her aunt's property in the countryside. At the time, it felt intimate and romantic. In hindsight, it was probably the first place where I ignored the small warning signs. 5 years ago, we bought a house about 40 minutes outside the city, a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood with wide sidewalks and kids riding bicycles in the evening. It was a 2-story brick place with 4 bedrooms, a sunlit kitchen, and a huge yard that I spent half my weekends trying to tame. The house meant more to me than I ever admitted. My grandfather, who had passed away a year before, left me a significant inheritance. He had worked his whole life as a carpenter. He lived frugally, saved every penny, and invested slowly. When he died, he left each grandchild a sizable amount, but I was the only one who used mine to buy a home. $400,000, the exact cost of the down payment. Rena never contributed a cent to the down payment. At the time, she told me she felt guilty about that, and insisted we put both our names on the title so it would feel like a true marital purchase. I agreed, believing that was what partners did. She promised we would build equity together. She promised a lot of things. Things started to shift around 18 months ago, when she transferred to a new department under a newly hired operations director named Callum. The moment that man walked into her professional life, everything in our personal life began to tilt sideways. Suddenly, she was staying late at the office nearly every night. She began traveling to out-of-town meetings twice a month. She became glued to her phone during dinner, responding to messages she claimed were urgent work issues. When I asked if something was going on or if she was overwhelmed, she would snap and tell me I had no idea how intense her new role was, and that I needed to support her instead of questioning her. We stopped having our Friday night movie nights. Our annual vacations turned into vague statements about not being able to get time off. She stopped reaching for me in bed. She stopped talking to me about anything deeper than groceries and bills. I thought it was a rough chapter. Every couple had those. I just never realized I was the only one still trying. Everything changed on a Tuesday afternoon. I had been overseeing a machinery installation for a client 2 hours out of town. By some miracle, everything went smoothly, so I got to leave early. I pulled into the driveway at 3 in the afternoon and immediately noticed Rena's car sitting there. She never came home before 7, sometimes 8. My stomach sank in a way I cannot explain. The moment I opened the front door, I heard noises coming from upstairs, not voices alone, sounds no married person should ever hear in their own home. I walked up the stairs. The bedroom door was not fully closed. Through the gap, I saw Rena in our bed with Callum. They were so wrapped up in each other that I stood there a full 30 seconds before either of them even noticed me. Rena's eyes met mine, her entire face drained of color. Callum jumped off the bed and started grabbing his clothes without saying a single word. He tried to speed walk past me, but I stepped aside and let him leave because hurting him physically would only hurt me legally. Rena started talking in a frantic rush. It is not what it looks like. I can explain. This was a mistake. You do not understand. Please listen. I did not say a single word. I simply told her to get out. The guest room became my bunker. She stood outside the locked door for nearly an hour, begging me to open it. She tried everything. Crying, apologizing, shouting, blaming me, then crying again. Around midnight, I heard her leave. I stayed awake until the sun came up. When I finally called my closest friend, Omar, who happens to be an experienced family law attorney, he told me the first step was to secure the house, document everything, gather financial records, and stop talking to her until we had a plan. I changed the locks that same afternoon. While gathering our financial records, I discovered something that made the affair seem like a minor inconvenience in comparison. Rena had been using our joint credit card for luxury hotels for more than a year. All of them matched cities where she claimed she had business trips. The charges included high-end restaurants, spa services, and a jewelry purchase that I never saw. I realized those trips were never work-related. They were rendezvous trips with Callum, but the worst part had not surfaced yet. 3 days later, she showed up at my office and tried to barge in. Security had to escort her out while she screamed that I was being dramatic and that couples work through rough patches. She called 14 months of cheating a rough patch. 2 weeks after that, divorce papers arrived. And somehow, she had the audacity to demand the house. Her filing said she contributed financially to the down payment, that she sacrificed her career trajectory for our household, and that she deserved the home as compensation while I could easily go buy another one. The filings also included something shocking, a supposed bank statement showing that she transferred $150,000 from an account in her name into our joint account around the time we purchased the home. I stared at that document for a long time. It was fake, completely invented. She never had that kind of money. The transfer never happened. I still had all the original bank statements from that period, including the official records of the inheritance deposit. Omar confirmed it instantly. This was not just a lie in a divorce case. This was full-blown fraud. Criminal fraud. Forging financial documents to influence property division. Judges do not take that lightly. I spent the next week assembling every piece of evidence that existed. The probate documents from my grandfather's estate, official bank statements, mortgage records proving every payment came from my account alone, a letter from the bank confirming that no transfer was ever made by Rena, screen captures of the luxury hotel charges. It was a mountain of evidence. Omar filed the motion and requested an emergency hearing. 3 days later, we walked into the courtroom. Rena looked exhausted. Her attorney tried to look confident, but even from across the room I could see his discomfort. They avoided looking in my direction. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then we all sat. My heartbeat felt like the ticking of a clock in an empty room. Omar laid out the evidence calmly and clearly. Document after document, date after date, verified statement after verified statement. The judge kept flipping through the pages with growing irritation. When Omar presented the forged bank statement and then held up the real one beside it, Rena's attorney asked for a brief recess. The judge denied it. Her attorney tried to argue clerical error. The judge stared at him long enough that the entire room went silent. The judge then turned to Rena and asked her directly if she understood the consequences of submitting fraudulent financial evidence. Her voice cracked. She said she did. That day changed everything. The judge sanctioned her. The forged statement was entered into the record as evidence of deceit. Her claim to the house was dismissed entirely. She was ordered to turn over all her financial devices for forensic review. She was warned that criminal charges were possible depending on what else was found. Her attorney looked like he wanted to resign on the spot. From that moment forward, the divorce shifted in my favor. Her infidelity, her deception, her financial misconduct, and her attempt to steal my inheritance all became part of the permanent case file. The house was awarded to me outright. She was removed from the title. She lost any claim to my inheritance, my retirement accounts, and even had to pay part of my attorney fees. Her own employer eventually found out about the affair and the forged documents during background checks for a promotion investigation. Callum was fired for inappropriate workplace conduct. Rena was demoted and given a disciplinary write-up. The fallout hit her like a landslide. She had tried to destroy me and ended up destroying her own life instead. Sometimes justice moves slowly, but when it hits hard. After the emergency hearing, everything in Rena's life began to unravel at a speed even I did not expect. I thought the consequences would take months to unfold. Instead, they hit her almost immediately, like dominoes lined up by someone who wanted to watch a disaster from start to finish. About a week after the hearing, Omar called me and said the forensic review of her submitted documents was already showing more inconsistencies. Not just one forged bank statement, but multiple altered files, dates that did not align, numbers that looked manually edited, entire sections of her financial disclosures that seemed copied and pasted from older statements. According to the forensic accountant, whoever made the fake documents did a sloppy job. That part caught my attention. Rena was not stupid. She could be reckless, impulsive, and manipulative, but she was not careless when it came to paperwork. That was always her strength at work. So either she panicked and did the forging herself, or someone helped her. Omar suggested she might have used a document editing service or even asked a friend for help. Either way, it did not matter. Responsibility still landed on her shoulders. During this period, she tried contacting me repeatedly. Calls, texts, emails, Instagram messages, even long voice notes that bounced between crying, pleading, blaming me for her stress, and insisting that she made a mistake but deserved a second chance. I did not answer any of them. I let everything go straight to Omar. About 2 weeks after the hearing, her attorney suddenly withdrew from the case. He filed a formal notice stating a communication breakdown with his client. I asked Omar what that usually meant. He said it meant Rena either lied to her attorney, withheld information, ignored legal advice, or blamed him for the mess she created. Possibly all of the above. The next week, Rena showed up at the house. I had been working on repairing a section of the fence in the backyard. When I heard the front doorbell ring over and over, I walked around the side of the house and saw her standing there with swollen eyes and unkempt hair. She looked nothing like the polished woman who once spent an hour getting ready for brunch. She begged me for 5 minutes. I told her I would only talk to her on the porch because I did not trust her inside the house anymore. She started talking so fast her words tripped over each other. She said she made a huge mistake. She said Callum manipulated her. She said she only forged the documents because she was terrified I would throw her out with nothing. She said she had no one left to support her. She said she missed her home and her life. Then she tried to reach for my hand. I stepped back and told her that any further communication had to go through Omar. She broke down completely. Not the dramatic crying she used to do during arguments. This was the sound of someone who just realized they destroyed their entire safety net. She eventually walked away, crying so loudly the neighbor across the street peeked through the blinds. The next major shift happened when her own employer became involved. Someone from her company contacted Omar to confirm dates of her business trips. Apparently, the HR department had received a whistleblower tip about inappropriate conduct between Rena and Callum. They were launching an internal investigation. Omar told them he could not share anything about the divorce directly, but he could confirm the dates of the court hearings. That alone was enough to raise red flags for them because the forged financial documents were already public record. About a month later, Callum was terminated for violating professional conduct rules. Rena was placed under review for dishonesty during an internal audit. Her demotion was immediate. Her pay was cut. Her responsibilities were reassigned. Word spread in the office. People avoided her like she carried something contagious. One of her co-workers reached out to me anonymously through a burner email and told me that Rena had become a ghost in the office. Quiet, tense, constantly checking her phone. No friends left, no one defending her. Meanwhile, the divorce process moved forward smoothly on my end. The forensic team finished their report and confirmed that every forged document had originated from Rena's devices. Not one file came from me, not from my accounts, not from my employer, not from any third party. At the final property division hearing, the judge did not hold back at all. He stated clearly that Rena's pattern of deception destroyed her credibility and directly affected the court's ability to trust her financial statements. He awarded me the house, my savings, my retirement accounts, and my inheritance without dispute. She walked away with her personal belongings and a single savings account that had less than $4,000 in it. After the hearing ended, Rena approached me. She looked hollow, like someone had scooped out all her confidence and left her with nothing but regret. She asked me quietly if we could talk privately, maybe get coffee, maybe try to rebuild something, even if just a friendship. I told her I wished her no harm, but I would never allow someone who tried to destroy my life back into it. She nodded slowly, took a shaky breath, and walked away. That was the last time I saw her in person. A few weeks later, I heard through Omar that the district attorney was reviewing the forged documents for possible charges. I was told I might be contacted later as a witness. Whether they will charge her or not remains to be seen, but the possibility alone seems to have frozen her life entirely. As for me, I have been rebuilding. I fixed parts of the house that I neglected during the chaos. I started volunteering on weekends again. I spent more time with my siblings. I slept through the night for the first time in months. And gradually, the house that once felt contaminated started feeling like mine again.